Sarah, what the Australian people know that probably don't like your show very much, but they do understand the truth.
What will Donald Trump's MAGA supporters do if he loses the election?
Are we talking about Julian Assange?
Well,
Sarah, are you even a serious interviewer?
Somehow, though, that little boy wasn't even the #1 most childish person in Congress today. That honor went to the Klan mom, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Jimmy Kimmel, our favorite late-night comedian, couldn't resist making fun of this political train wreck. His jaws are so sharp, they'll make Meg's tantrums look like a gentle summer breeze. If you enjoy a good laugh, don't forget to hit that joke. Did you notice Marjorie Taylor Greene's face turning a shade instead of a mega hat? Press the like button and become a subscriber to our channel. Together, we can expose MTG and Trump's deceit. What a spectacle! Our favorite conspiracy queen, Marjorie Taylor Greene, began by attempting to appear composed and knowledgeable in front of a group of scholars. However, as everyone knows, this act is as transient as a coherent thought in one of Trump's digressive speeches. When interviewer Sarah Ferguson brought up the 2020 election, Marjorie's composure began to crumble faster than a hurricane-tossed sandcastle. Greene attempted to appear somewhat composed, which is about as common as finding a sensible idea in one of Trump's tirades. Ferguson asked Greene if she thought Trump would ever face legal repercussions for her January 6 speech. And that's when the real fireworks started. Greene's face turned a shade redder than all of Trump's ties, and you could practically see steam coming out of her ears. But hold on to your seats, this is only getting better, because Ferguson delivered a knockout punch. You've never accepted the results of the 2020 presidential election. Instead, you've celebrated those who attacked the... Greene's eyes popped out of her head, literally. Then, the million-dollar question came up. What do you think Trump's MAGA supporters will do if he loses the 2024 election? Oh my, that's when Greene really lost her cool. She began interrupting Ferguson as if she were in a debate decathlon, and her voice rose to a pitch that sounded like a chihuahua on helium. The best part was that Ferguson stayed as composed as a 6 missteps in, and that's when the real fireworks began. Greene's face turned a shade redder than a blazing MAGA hat, and you could practically see the steam coming out of her ears. But hold on, it gets better from here, Ferguson. When the woman asked questions all day long without showing her face, it only made Greene angrier. It was like watching a cat trying to catch a laser pointer. Then came the million-dollar question. What do you think Trump's MAGA supporters will do if he loses the election? Oh boy, that's when Greene truly lost her cool. She began interrupting Ferguson as if it were important. Greene delivered a real zinger. You've never accepted the results of the 2020 presidential election. In fact, you've even praised those who stormed the Capitol. Bam! The best part was Ferguson remained as composed as a serene pond throughout the entire ordeal, asking questions coolly as a cucumber. Of course, this only made Greene angrier. It was like watching a cat try to catch a laser pointer, completely frustrating for the cat, but hilarious for everyone else. Her voice went up an octave and grew louder, kind of like a chihuahua hopped up on helium. Fidgety than a child who is too eager to skip playtime, at one point, she even grabbed the microphone as if she were trying out for America's Got Talent. However, the real high point of the incident was when Greene lost it and started questioning Ferguson's journalism background. She blurred out, saying, "Are you even a serious interviewer, Sarah? Talk about the pot calling the kettle black, it's pretty rich coming from." Someone whose greatest accomplishment appears to be correctly spelling key andon. And just when you thought things couldn't get any more bizarre, Greene dropped this pearl of wisdom, Sarah. Okay, so the Australians don't really like your show, but they do understand the truth. Because Greene is unquestionably the world's foremost authority on Australian TV ratings, Sarah was thanked for her time by Ferguson, presumably through gritted teeth. With a tantrum and a furious exit from the kitchen, she yanked off her microphone as if it were a Band-Aid. Well, folks, Jimmy Kimmel delivered a hilarious analysis of Greene's interlude via Meltdown. Kimmel arrived armed with a treasure trove of jokes that could make even the most stoic politician smile. He began by pointing out that Greene seemed to be having a spectacularly, our late-night hero didn't hold back on Greene's evident meltdown. I haven't seen anyone get that red since Trump tried to read a book without looking at it. Bad day, poor Margot. She looked about as stable as a Jenga tower during an earthquake. Kimmel then hilariously spotlighted how our favorite conspiracy queen was struggling to keep it together under a few simple questions, like watching a toddler trying to grasp quantum physics entertaining but utterly futile. Kimmel continued the comedy train by making fun of Greene's most recent bizarre theory and pointing out how she was avoiding Ferguson's perfectly reasonable questions by acting like Trump dodges paying taxes. The crowd cheered louder than at a MAGA rally when Kimmel gave away free hats, but the comedic brilliance didn't stop there. Kimmel couldn't help but poke fun at Greene's pitiful attempt to question Ferguson's. With a sly grin, he said, "What the Australian people know that probably don't like your show very much, but they do understand the truth. Oh yes, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the world-renowned expert on Australian TV ratings, and the truth, and the grand finale when Ferguson thanked her for her time probably." He made fun of her journalism credentials and asked, "Are you even a serious interviewer, Sarah?" As if Greene's main qualification was knowing how to spell key. The audience was giggling uncontrollably as if they were watching a compilation of Trump's most amusing spelling errors. Through gritted teeth, Greene ripped off her microphone like she was yanking off a Band-Aid. "I guess when you can't stand the heat, you throw a tantrum and storm out of the kitchen." Kimmel summed it up perfectly, leaving everyone in stitches. "Are you even a serious interviewer?" That's a laugh coming from someone who believes in Jewish space lasers. The audience erupted in laughter, likely remembering all the times Greene had made dramatic exits from reality. But the real gem came when Kimmel tackled Greene's bizarre attempt to represent Australian opinions. He remarked, "Marjorie Taylor Greene knows as much about Australian TV ratings as she does." Kimmel's comedic genius was on full display as he took on Greene's final meltdown. The audience erupted in applause, evidently enjoying Kimmel's uncensored, fearless take on political humor throughout his roast. Kimmel kept returning to Greene's apparent frustration during the interview, joking that she was fidgeting more than Trump at a spelling bee. The crowd was consuming every clever jab Kimmel delivered, and their laughter grew with each one. This about real science, which is to say absolutely nothing. As he concluded the disastrous interview, Greene gave the audience one last song. He grinned and said, "I'm starting to think Marjorie Taylor Greene might not be the stable genius she claims to be." The audience burst out laughing, remembering all the times Greene had made that point for herself. All right, people, we've seen Greene's meltdown, but let's get down to business and discuss her biggest mistakes made during this disastrous interview. First up, there's Greene's iconic line, "Are you even a serious interviewer? I don't usually do interviews like this because people like you can't be taken seriously." Jimmy Kimmel couldn't resist making a comeback. "Marjorie, you're a serious politician. Most of us can't take you seriously either." But wait, there's more. Greene decided to play fast and loose. Untrue to the facts regarding January 6, she asserted that numerous protesters who were detained had entered the Capitol through open doors and taken photos and videos as though they were on a leisurely sightseeing trip. Kimmel responded, "Yeah, and I'm sure they were just there for a friendly guided tour. Maybe they thought it was the world's angriest tour." Then Kimmel produced a toy camera for children and held it up, saying, "Look, I found one of those cameras, those." Though Greene wasn't done delving deeper, she attempted to cast doubt on the interviewer's credibility by asking, "Sarah, what the Australian people know that probably don't like your show very much, but they do understand the truth." Kimmel couldn't resist this golden opportunity. He shot back a yes, because nothing says peaceful tourists use. The audience burst into laughter as he pretended to snap photos, dramatically exclaiming "ooh" and "ah" like an overenthusiastic tourist. "I understand the facts, such as supporting a man who believes that windmills cause cancer." Kimmel then grabbed a globe and whirled it frantically. "I'm trying to find the country where Marjorie Taylor Greene is an expert on, well, anything," he joked, squinting at the spinning globe. As Greene's annoyance mounted, Kimmel's amusement grew. He noted how she abruptly grabbed the microphone, acting as though it were the last scrap of evidence. Proving that the election wasn't rigged, Kimmel displayed a plush microphone to demonstrate his point. "Is this how you conduct interviews in Congress?" he asked, echoing Marjorie's frenzied energy. However, the real joke came when Greene began accusing the interviewer of being unsincere. "You know who else isn't serious? Someone who believes that Jewish space lasers exist," Kimmel joked, alluding to one of Greene's well-known conspiracy theories. In order to emphasize his point, Kimmel produced a toy laser gun with a sticker of the Star of David on it. "Watch out, Australia, Marjorie thinks you're next," he said, making pew-pew noises as the interview collapsed. As you might be wondering, what exactly has to do with MTG's meltdown? buckle up, Buttercup, because I'm going to make the connection between the two. Kimmel started things off by pointing out the uncanny similarities between Greene's meltdown and Trump's typical tantrums, saying it's like watching a mini Trump in action. Masters of Mayhem, our late-night hero, wasn't about to let Greene's tantrum go to waste. He saw an opportunity to roast not one but two of his favorite targets. "It's like Christmas came early for Jimmy," he said. The audience was in stitches as Kimmel pointed out how Greene's outburst mirrored Trump's famous Twitter rants, almost to the point where she was defending Trump like a groupie. She may have slightly better hair, but the comedy goldmine didn't stop there. Kimmel dug deeper, highlighting how Greene's defense of Trump was more passionate than teenagers defending their favorite boy band. "She's like a Trump groupie," he joked. He laughed, taking a cue from the maestro himself about how to throw a tantrum. The next thing you knew, she was tweeting at 3 a.m, furious, concerning hamburgers and fries, but what about grumpy Trump's response to it all? Following his usual pattern, Donnie Diapers couldn't resist hurling his own mini tantrum. Kimmel posted a video of Trump responding, complimenting Greene's performance like a proud father. Kimmel remarked, "It's like watching a toddler congratulate another." Toddler was having the biggest meltdown in the grocery store, so the comedian couldn't resist making fun of Trump's own interviewing techniques, or lack thereof. Trump compared Greene's interviewing techniques to a fish complimenting someone's ability to climb trees. As a result, Kimmel joked that neither of them should be offering advice on how to handle difficult questions. A better joke than the last, this one was like the dynamic duo of delusion, he laughed, stating that if Batman was orange and Robin believed in Jewish space lasers, then asterisk, and let me tell you folks, it's a tough race to call asterisk. The audience erupted in laughter as Kimmel emphasized the absurdity, making it seem like they were in a competition to see who could say the most ridiculous thing. And it seemed that Trump had a special relationship with reality. These two are so cut off from reality that they could be on a spacecraft bound for Mars and still claim to be in Florida. He said, maybe that's why they get along so well. Well, misery does love company, and so does crazy asterisk, so let's move on. This is where Kimmel really turns the heat up on Greene. Not only did he roast her, but he also practically deep-fried her in a vat of. Kimmel began by making absurd remarks about Greene's obvious frustration. He joked, "She's mad, she's a snowflake," making fun of how quickly she became agitated. The audience laughed at the irony of a tough-talking politician giving in to pressure, but Kimmel wasn't done yet. He hit Greene with a string of jokes, each one funnier than the last. "I haven't seen someone that reads since Trump tried to." Kimmel kept coming back to Greene's obvious frustration throughout the segment. It was like a running gag. He said, "Read a book without pictures," making fun of both Greene's rage and Trump's well-known dislike of reading. I would mimic her angry face, getting redder and redder until the audience was in stitches. Kimmel also didn't stop talking about Greene's conspiracy theories, grabbing that mic like it was the final piece of evidence that the election wasn't rigged came when Kimmel responded to Greene's attempt to cast doubt on the interviewer's credibility. "Are you even a serious interviewer that's rich coming from someone who thinks Jewish space lasers are a thing?" He said, alluding to one of Greene's most notorious conspiracy theories. The audience was appalled. Howling with laughter, Kimmel persisted in his criticism. He even used props to emphasize his points. At one point, he brought out a toy camera, posing as one of the ones that those so-called peaceful tourists had used during the Capitol riot, mocking Greene's attempt to minimize the events of January 6. As the segment came to a close, Kimmel really went all out. She looked like a toddler who had just discovered that there was no more ice cream. Kimmel compared Marjorie Taylor Greene's meltdown to a child's tantrum, saying that her voice sounded like a chihuahua on helium. The audience was nearly bursting out of their seats with laughter, but he saved his sharpest criticism for the end. With a grin, he said, "I'm starting to think Marjorie Taylor Greene might not be the stable genius she claims to be." The crowd erupted in applause and laughter. Enjoying Kimmel's fearless approach to political humor, Greene's visible exasperation, her wild conspiracy theories, and her unwavering support for Trump were all repeatedly brought up by Kimmel throughout the segment. He noted that it was like a comedy trifecta, with each element making the others even funnier. Well, folks, it looks like Kimmel's roast of Greene was just what we needed. Who knew that laughter could be such a potent remedy for our favorite late night? It was as though Kimmel held up a mirror to Greene's meltdown and said, "Hey America, is this really what we're dealing with?" Political satire isn't just about making jokes. the host opened up a whole kind of perspective on this political spectacle. Kimmel's singers did more than just make us laugh. They offered a refreshing look at the absurdity of it all. In the end, Kimmel left us with this gem. Remember, folks, in the game of politics, it's better to be the comedian than the punchline. Greene has also made outrageous claims that mass shootings like Parkland, Sandy Hook, and Las Vegas were false flag operas staged by fake flag operators. Getting Lass is a way to make sense of the chaos, to find humor in the horror show that is modern politics. The statements made by proponents of gun control are not only untrue, but they also cause great harm to the families and survivors of the victims. By disseminating these lies, Greene erodes public confidence in the media and government transparency. She has also promoted misinformation about COVID-19, downplaying its importance, spreading lies about vaccines, and drawing parallels between mask mandates and the Holocaust. Her reckless rhetoric has increased public health risks and stoked vaccine skepticism. Trump's presidency was marked by an astounding amount of falsehoods. The Washington Post's fact-checker compiled over 30,000 false or misleading claims made by the president during his tenure. One of the most damaging lies of Trump's presidency was his mishandling of the COVID-19 pandemic. He repeatedly downplayed the virus's severity, suggesting that it would disappear like a miracle and endorsing improven theories. The 2020 election lies are perhaps the most consequential of his deceptions, despite overwhelming evidence confirming the election's integrity. Trump stubbornly claimed it was stolen from him. This big lie incited the violent insurrection at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. His refusal to accept the truth likely contributed to the death toll in the U.S. Treatments like hydroxychloroquine. The results of the election and the propagation of fictitious allegations of voter fraud have seriously damaged confidence in the democratic process. Trump's lies have not only spread misinformation, they have also put public health at risk, incited violence, and threatened the very foundations of American democracy. The lies propagated by Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump have real detrimental effects on society. They fuel societal division, and voters must insist on honesty, integrity, and accountability from those in power, including Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump, as their support for violent and dangerous falsehoods endangers public health. Democracy thrives on the presence of informed citizens and leaders who are transparent and accountable. When leaders lie without repercussions, it undermines the very foundation of democratic governance. They have demonstrated time and time again that they are willing to lie in order to further their political agendas. By rejecting leaders who feed misinformation, voting for the truth and accountability is not only a political, but also a moral obligation. By breaking away from MTG and Trump, we can begin to mend our divisions and rebuild faith in our Democratic Party. Institutions laying the groundwork for a society where everyone lives in honesty and justice.